Good evening. Welcome to your Direct Connection. Coming up tonight, no jab, no job. Can employers really require workers to get vaccinated? We will find out. But first tonight, exercising after COVID. Joining us for our Your Health segment is Dr. Scott Jerome, Director of Ambulatory Services and Outreach and co-director of sports cardiology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Doctor, thank you for being with us. It was a beautiful day outside today, the kind of day that makes you want to go do something. Is that safe to do? Is exercise safe for people who have COVID or have had COVID?
Yeah, well, that's becoming a great story. Early on in this COVID pandemic, we had studies that suggested that 70 or 80% of people had cardiac involvement with COVID. And then our athletes, this was a big deal. We stopped the Big Ten. Could the NFL play? If we remember the NBA bubble, and this was the big concern. And we really didn't know what was happening. And then as time went on, our studies got better and better to decide who had cardiac involvement and who didn't have cardiac involvement. And then we began whittling that number down as we did better and better studies. It came down from 70 to 50% of people had cardiac involvement. Then the studies narrowed in, it became 15%. And then as we started looking at normal control people and athletes that did not have COVID, it came down even further. And the latest two studies, one was in pro athletes, about close to 1,000. It was only about 0.6, 0.7% actually had any cardiac involvement. And just this April, there was a study published, a lot of college athletes, and they found about 0.5 to less than 1% actually had any cardiac involvement at all. So that was very reassuring to our athletes. Your question was about the weekend warrior.
Well, let me just
back up
a little bit, because people may be wondering, why are we talking about cardiac issues with COVID, which everybody thinks of as a respiratory condition?
Yeah, so it's a viral infection, and viral infections infect all kinds of things. We think that it affects the lungs, but people get viruses and they get nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and they have a GI virus. Well, the same thing happens in people. We get a virus, we think it's a little flu or a cold, and sometimes it actually infects the heart. So COVID is no different than other viruses that can affect the heart. And one of the causes of sudden death actually is a viral infection of the heart that people really aren't aware of.
What's the nature of the infection? What does it do to the heart?
It does two things. One, it can weaken the heart, so the heart strength gets much worse, and they wind up in heart failure. And the other thing that it can do is it can cause heart rhythm problems, where the heart gets out of sync and can basically stop functioning, a thing called ventricular tachycardia, and that can kill people.
All right, now you were going to transition to the weekend warriors, and then there are people who obviously know they had it. There are some people apparently who've gotten COVID and never knew it.
Right. So there's a huge percent of people that were asymptomatic that had COVID, had no clue. The more we learn about COVID, we learn that the cardiac risk seems to be symptom related. So if you had no symptoms, you're probably pretty safe. If you had severe symptoms, if you were in a hospital, then you probably need to be looked at and evaluated before you go out and do your recreational sport, whatever that is, whether that's mowing the lawn, playing golf, jogging, kayaking, whatever. And then there's the mild symptoms are probably okay. It's those moderate to severe symptom people that we need to look out for.
What are you doing with college athletes that you take care of? Because, I mean, you were talking really low numbers, under 1%, but it's not zero, and anything over zero is a cause for concern.
Right. So college athletes, we first do a physical examination on them, see what their symptom level is. If they were totally asymptomatic, they get a kind of different workup than somebody who's been really sick with these symptoms. They normally get an echocardiogram, which is a sound wave picture of the heart, to see how well the function is, are all the walls moving, are there any valvular abnormalities. They get an EKG, which most of us get, make sure there's no EKG abnormalities. And then we do a blood test to see if there's any enzymes coming from the heart that will lead us in the direction to say, boy, there is some heart injury going on.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question for the doctor, give us a call. We'll have the number on the screen. You can also email a question. The email address, livequestions@mpt.org. Doctor, athletes, weekend warriors, pro athletes are about powering through, right? I mean, if there's some discomfort, you're going to ignore it. You're going to fight through it. How do you know if it's routine or if it's serious?
Well, I think the serious ones, if you're not getting better, you stop, you catch your breath, and you're just not catching your breath. You get lightheaded, dizzy, you pass out. Those are very serious symptoms. If you get chest tightness, pressure in your jaw, arm, neck, left arm, those are signs of a heart attack. You know, we think of this COVID world, but we got to think of, we haven't done anything. We've been in isolation. Now we're going to go out and kayak 5 miles. So, you know, it puts us at risk for heart attack. So any of those symptoms that don't seem to go away pretty quickly, I would seek attention for.
All right, let's think about an athlete, amateur, semi-pro, whatever, who gets COVID today, and maybe it's a moderate case and it clears up after a period of time without hospitalization. What would your best advice be? I'm assuming you don't want that person while they're sick doing wind sprints.
Correct. So the basic things, you got to isolate. You know, wear your mask. They isolate after their 10 days. If they had those moderate symptoms, we normally might get an EKG, a blood test, maybe even an echo. If it's all normal, then we get them to return to play gradually over the next few weeks. They can go back to their sport and competitively.
Does age seem to matter in how people get over COVID from a sports medicine standpoint?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Jeff. We've got all these studies in our pro athletes who are generally considered younger, they're in their 20s. We've got college athletes. But our adult athletes, our 40s, 50s, 60s who are out jogging, we don't have that much data. We know that COVID affects older people more severely, but we just don't have the data on the adult recreational athlete, how much risk they're at. Again, I think it's probably symptom driven. If you've got mild symptoms that resolve in a week and you're back to normal, you're probably relatively safe. Anything beyond that, you should probably get looked at.
Let's take a phone call. Allegheny County, this is Lisa. Lisa, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call. My question is, well, it's more of a symptoms situation. I used to live at sea level. I now live at 2,200 feet above sea level. And as people come out to the mountain lands of Maryland, should altitude be a consideration for COVID exercise?
Interesting question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. In Maryland, our altitude's not super high. We really start worrying about oxygen levels about 6,000 to 8,000 feet. So I don't think, at least in our state, the altitude is going to affect you too much. You've got the Colorado, Utah. Then we start worrying about altitude and oxygen levels at that level.
Talk about the overall importance of exercise, and even in a rehab situation where somebody's had COVID, they've had a case that left them impaired somewhat. They're going to need some physical therapy. How does that work?
Yeah, physical therapy, exercise is so important to life and our well-being. So the rehab, it starts gradual, and we work our way up to more intensity, more duration of our exercise, things like that. Exercise, you know, it helps us sleep better. It helps clear our mind. It helps weight control. It helps our cardiovascular system. People who exercise have less mortality rates, have less heart attack rates. You know, the sun's shining, the weather's warm, and we all want to get outside and start doing some stuff.
And it's supposed to be safer out there, right? When you think about doing some activity outdoors or in a gym, does outdoors have the leg up?
Absolutely. You know, we're not sharing each other's air when we're outside. When we're in a gym, closed area, we're sharing each other's air, and that virus just gets mixed around. Outdoors is a great place. You can feel much safer being outdoors in the fresh air, a little wind blowing. Your chances of getting COVID are much less.
Related question to all this, but not COVID related. For college athletes, there have been tragic cases where somebody had an unknown, undiagnosed heart abnormality of some kind. What's the state of the art there in terms of who's getting EKGs, echoes, and more invasive testing?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no standard. There's some basic guidelines. As they get up into the more competitive sports, D1 athletes seem to get screened with a higher amount of testing with EKGs, sometimes echo for the basketball players. Unfortunately, our high school athletes, there's just not the funding to do a bunch of screening in these high school athletes. So a certain amount of screening is important. I think they should at least have somebody listen to their heart, lungs, take a history, make sure they don't have some of these things that we worry about, a family history of sudden death, somebody passing out, or real big warning signs. So even at the high school level, just a history and physical is really important. And as they progress into their athletic careers, they get more testing, just like the pros do.
And to repeat the headline here, when it comes to COVID, the data is not as scary as it was, but still exercise caution.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
Very good. Dr. Scott Jerome, Director of Ambulatory Services and Outreach, Co-Director, Sports Cardiology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Doctor, thanks so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be on.
And now to the question of whether employers can mandate that employees get a COVID vaccine. We spoke with attorney Joyce Smithy.
So largely employers are going to be allowed to require vaccinations, just like we're used to seeing schools be able to do it. There are going to be some exceptions. If you need an accommodation for a medical condition that makes it dangerous for you to get the vaccine, employers are going to have to accommodate that. If you have a sincerely held religious belief that would prohibit you from taking the vaccine, that as well is something that the employer is going to have to accommodate. Those areas of the law are actually fairly well established, with relationship to other things, accommodations in the workplace. So I think, we're going to see a lot of people exercising those rights, and I think we're going to have a pretty established legal system to deal with them.
Does the worker who has an objection and maybe can't cite a specific religious or medical reason for the objection, they're not pregnant, for example, do they have any argument in the fact that the vaccines haven't received the traditional full FDA approval and are operating under this emergency use status?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've seen people blogging about the idea that perhaps because it's emergency use status and it comes with all those warnings, right? Only take this vaccine after careful consideration of all the risks, and whether or not that might lead to some sort of wrongful termination claim for someone if they're terminated for refusing the vaccine. In Maryland, at least, I think that would be a pretty tough case. It would essentially have to fall under a line of cases for refusing to do something illegal. And when we look at the case law in Maryland, it's a pretty high standard. It actually has to be a violation of law, not recommendations or even legal ethics, have not been enough in certain case law. So I think in Maryland, that's going to be a stretch to make that argument.
So it sounds like there may not be a distinction between, say a company has a part of the business that is facing the public, where people walk in and do business and would expect some degree of safety, and then maybe a back office where there's less of that. The law wouldn't see that any differently.
I mean, I think if you get to a point where somebody is seeking accommodations, you're going to be balancing a larger need with front-facing employees who have client contact, customer contact. But really, it's not as though, it's going to be mandatory in certain environments and not others. I think it's really going to focus on whether you've got that disability. And if you do, I think whether or not it can be accommodated in some other way could depend on the industry.
Part of it is that, people don't like being told what to do, just in general, right? So maybe employers can avoid some of these issues by finding ways to nudge or encourage people to get the shot. Can you provide some extra perk, a couple of days off in cases, and somebody who had a serious, not serious, but at least a moderate reaction to one of the vaccines, that you're going to get the day off, no questions asked, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. And we're already seeing that with a lot of companies who are giving incentives to their employees to want to take the vaccine. So I think it's a great idea, to encourage your employees and give them an incentive other than do this or get fired. Because as you suggested, I think the human condition doesn't always respond well to those kinds of imperatives. So they can do it, and we are seeing it already.
We've seen in the last few days that the state's universities have announced that they're going to require vaccination for students, faculty, and staff members who are going to be on campus in the fall. Do you, off the top of your head, see any legal issues there?
I mean, again, as long as they are leaving some room for accommodation for disabled students, for students who have, sincerely held religious beliefs and a religious objection, as long as they're doing that, I think they're fine within the law to do so.
What else has been coming across your threshold during the pandemic in terms of employment law issues?
Sure. We're getting a lot of questions from people about teleworking. A lot of people have become used to, being at home, and they're all getting mandates to come back in. And we're getting a lot of questions of, can your employer do that? And again, similar to the vaccine, the answer is generally yes. Your employer gets to extend telework as a privilege, not as a matter of right to the employees. But again, if you have a disability, that makes it difficult for you to come into the workplace, they should again explore accommodations for those. So some people, they may just have to go in and adapt to the new world again. But if you have a disability, the law requires an interactive process to try to figure out what the employer can do with the employee to make it work for them with teleworking.
How about mask requirements? Have you seen legal issues there?
Sure, we've seen a lot of those, and they come in a couple of different ways. We've seen a lot of calls from employees where the employers aren't enforcing any of the CDC guidelines, the local county and state regulations. Maybe there aren't masks being worn, or no social distancing, or people aren't quarantining when they should. So a lot of calls going to local departments of health for that, OSHA, all of the places that deal with workplace safety. And then we're also getting a lot of calls from people who have spoken up about these problems and said, wait a minute, this isn't a safe place for me to be. And people getting retaliated against for voicing those concerns. And OSHA has a robust anti-retaliation provision in its laws. So those people are becoming whistleblowers, and I think we're going to see a lot of cases where people got fired in retaliation for complaining about, a lack of enforcement on the mask mandates.
If somebody watching is in that situation, they see something they believe is unsafe at the office, what can they do to protect themselves and also protect themselves legally?
It's a great question. Certainly your employer should have a well-written complaint policy. You can look there as a place to start. You don't have to have filed at OSHA to have the anti-retaliation protection. So even an internal complaint should give you some protection for your job. I would start with looking at your employer's policies, follow the complaint policy. If that does not work, then you can go out to the Department of Health. You can go to OSHA. OSHA has a great website on how to file complaints there, and ask them to look into the violations.
We're going to have more of these, I guess. I mean, we're hopeful that the pandemic is going to end soon, but I wonder if the legal issues are just getting started as people get back to work. To whatever degree we're going to return to the prior status of so many people being, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, we're going to have people come in contact with each other more than they have over the last year.
I think that's right. We're still getting cases in the door from legislation that's already come into existence and stopped, right? We had certain protections for smaller businesses related to COVID and the Families First uh, Coronavirus Response Act that ended in December 31st. And we're still getting cases through the door, for people who were fired before then for needing to take leave for a quarantine. Those are all still going to go through the court systems. I think we're going to see a lot of disability accommodation cases, whistleblowing cases. And frankly, I'm waiting to see the workers' compensation end of this for people who, ended up with an illness or injury while they were in the workplace related to COVID or related to a mandatory vaccine. I think we're going to see a lot of unprecedented, case law coming out in this whole new area of what happens when somebody, contacted somebody with COVID and got sick, or had one of those rare reactions to the vaccine. I think we're going to see that working through the workers' compensation system as well.
Especially if they've been ordered to get the vaccine, which brings us back to the beginning of the conversation. Your bottom line advice for either an employer who wants to have a vaccinated workforce at 100%, or an employee who, for whatever reason, is a little bit hesitant about getting the shot.
Yeah, from the employer perspective, the best protection you can have is a good written policy on this. You should have a policy as to what the expectations are, and if an accommodation is needed, what is that process? Employers should be training their managers so that if somebody speaks up and says, wait a minute, I'm worried about an issue related to getting the vaccines, that those managers know not to retaliate, to begin the process of seeing what can be done for an accommodation. So great policies, and train the managers from the employer side. From the employee side, even if you don't have the protections, obviously, if you have those protections, talk to your doctor, get the documentation. But if you don't, have the conversation anyway. Communicate with your employer. They may still mandate something, but again, they may be willing to accommodate you, with a mask still. I think we're still going to see people going to work with masks, and the shields over their face. So from an employee perspective, know your rights. And if you don't have a lot of legal rights, still have the discussion. I think there's a lot of value in, letting an employee be heard and having the employee voice those concerns.
Joyce Smithy, the Smithy Law Group. Joyce, appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Sure, you're very welcome. Thank you.
The pandemic has led to the creation of hundreds of new businesses aimed at helping to protect people from COVID-19. MPT's Nancy Amata reports on one business started by two friends, both doctors, aiming to protect kids.
My son has asthma, and COVID obviously has respiratory complications, and so I was particularly worried about keeping him safe.
Dr. Gabriel Page Wilson of Columbia University Irving Medical Center says when the pandemic began, she quickly realized
all masks aren't created equal.
When she contacted her med school friend, Dr. Samira Brown, a pediatrician in Atlanta, for advice, they discovered that there wasn't a lot of high-quality masks for kids. That didn't sit well with them. They say kids need as much protection as adults.
There are complications. Kids do get hospitalized. They go to the ICU. There have been over 200 deaths from COVID in children, and that is not okay. If there's something that we can do to make it safer for children, that's our responsibility.
It took just 12 weeks and sleepless nights for the doctors, along with a third partner, to design and manufacture high-quality masks and face shields for kids and adults. Little Lives PPE now has customers across the country and around the world.
The material that we used was really important to us. We wanted to be able to use a material that was similar to the material that's used in medical grade masks. So we use polypropylene. And the advantage of that material is that it does an amazing job of filtering out particles, so blocking things, preventing germs from getting in and from getting out. And it's also really breathable.
Besides focusing on function and safety, the folks at Little Lives PPE made sure their products are made in the USA.
When you're talking about a pandemic, you have to know the quality. And be able to promise your customers that it's top quality and that you can certify the product to a high standard. And if it's coming from overseas, we simply can't do that, not at this time.
Little Lives PPE is not just committed to making personal protective gear, they also want to make sure customers are wearing them correctly.
Wearing a mask the wrong way protects no one. And so the things we see commonly are that the mask is below the nose. That's probably the most common thing. And the reality is that now you've got two portals of entry where the virus can get in that are exposed.
And Little Lives PPE is committed to making sure their masks are accessible to everyone. They've partnered with several homeless shelters to make sure they have high-quality masks, too.
We definitely believe that everyone deserves the best health care that's out there. Doesn't matter who they are, what they look like, or what their insurance is.
For more on Little Lives PPE, head to their website, littlelivesppe.com. Their products are also sold on Amazon. I'm Nancy Yamada for Direct Connection.
Nancy, thank you. That is Direct Connection for this week. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at MPT News. We're back Friday with State Circle, the latest on Maryland politics. For all of us at MPT, thanks for watching and have a good night.
Your health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
Programs on MPT are made possible by our members and the following.
MCA Maryland has been on the job since 1927, building and maintaining the critical infrastructure in the Mid-Atlantic. At this challenging time, MCA contractors continue to provide an essential service to the community while strictly following the CDC guidelines for COVID-19. Baltimore-based Powerhouse, the first solar-powered community-based resiliency hub in the nation, functions off the grid during power outages by utilizing solar PV and energy storage. Learn more at energy.maryland.gov. At the National Transportation Center at Morgan State University, our graduate students and faculty in the Department of Transportation use full-size driving simulators to safely study distracted driving, how drivers and cyclists interact, traffic patterns, and the usage of emerging technology. The results of our research help establish data-driven best practices for today's and tomorrow's transportation issues. To learn more,